What's up, YouTube? Roachsaurus here, back with another React video. Today we got 10 tips every Fortnite player needs to know in Chapter 4, Season 3. Let's take a look. Let's go!
Guys, in today's video I'm going to be going over some tips that you're going to want to know in Chapter 4 Season 3. This season changed a lot with the removal of mobility, and that changes how you want to play it in Zero Build. If you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down.
Yeah, they took basically everything out mobility wise. All we have now is like the vines to rail on, a couple of mushrooms to bounce on, and animals now, besides vehicles.
So with the lack of mobility, fast heals are even more essential now than ever because you can't really reset fights easily. The Chug Splash was vaulted, which was like kind of one of the premier fast healing items, but the Slurp Juice is still in the game. You can still get this from Vault, combat caches, or the island, and I would highly recommend getting one of these Slurp Juice. It's a huge deal with the lack of fast heals in the game. It was really insane last season and nothing has really changed, but I do think that the vaults aren't as like high of a priority. You can get the
You can also get the Slurp Juice from the Loot Island if you capture the flag.
Mythic Flapjack rifle from them, which is good. It's very good, but it's not as big of a game changer as getting the Mythic Pump was. So I wouldn't feel bad at all about like giving up the vaults and not going to them and just going for the combat cache instead to get your slurps. But one way or the other, I think you're definitely gonna want to get Slurp Juice. So if that means you go to a vault, cool. If you're not able to get to the vault for whatever reason, like maybe just one doesn't spawn near you, which can happen this season, go for the combat cache. I think it is very important that you have Slurp Juice right now. And then when Island spawns in, I think you're definitely gonna want to contest that, just like last season. The island fights will probably be the fights that decide the game. It's not as insane because there's no mobility in the game, so in-game kind of plays out slow no matter what this season, I feel like.
Yeah, I kind of feel that too.
Mythic drum shotgun is very good. I think the
Mythic drum I'm gonna call it now, guys. Mythic drum shotgun, the Mythic Flapjack rifle, that's really good gun, and also the MK7, which has returned. So MK7, Flapjack, Mythic shotgun, and then maybe the thermal for like long distances and finding enemy in like the jungle portion.
Shotgun is busted, and you get the refresh of slurps, which is nice, and you also don't have to play against the Mythic drum shotgun if you have it, which is very nice. So I still would recommend going for the island, and I think a lot of times you're going to fight a lot of the better players on that island because those are the people that kind of know, like, I'm going to go and get this, and then hopefully that's going to help me win the game. So nothing has really changed in that regard, but I do think it is very important that you get Slurp Juice. We'll get to another reason why slurps are important later on in the video. Another thing that is very important this season, which is kind of different from last season, is that bunkers are incredibly important. With the lack of mobility, bunkers are the only thing you can do to change the outcome of a fight. You know, like if you're not in a great scenario and somebody has better cover than you or better positioning than you, and they just start like frying you with a red eye or the new DMR, then you're probably just going to lose that fight. But with the bunker, you can throw that down, you can kind of create some cover for yourself, you can create a position of advantage for yourself, and then also it does have tires on it, which can be nice for pushing people. I think...
Oh, by the way, in the state of reviewing this video and reacting to it, the red eye has been vaulted, so what he's using now, we don't have that anymore, but we do have the MK7s back.
Porta bunkers are one of the biggest things in the game right now. If you make it to endgame with a decent loadout in bunkers, and nobody else in the lobby has bunkers, I think it's going to be very easy for you to win that game, or it should be very easy for you to win that game. So in past seasons, mobility was like essential for Zero Build. I think now porta bunkers are essential for Zero Build. It's probably the most important thing aside from like obviously your weapons and stuff, but like
I can get behind that, but it's also, I mean, you don't necessarily need it, but it's good to have it. It's like one of those things that's good to have, but you don't have to have it. I don't use bunkers and I still have won plenty of fights.
If you change one thing about how you play from this video, I think carrying bunkers is probably the most important one if you aren't somebody who is already using them. With the lack of mobility, I think having like cars, motorcycles, or even the animals are much more important than they were before, just to get around the map faster, but also like getting to island on the right time. Like if you guys played last season, you know how important that is, getting to island on the right time. Now it's even more so important because if you're trying to take island from somebody else who already has control, it's harder to do so with no mobility than it was last season with like the katana. You could just katana to the roof if they ever gave it up. Now, the person who has roof has an easier time holding it. And one thing that makes it very easy to hold the roof is going to be the flapjack rifle. This weapon is very, very, very good. And typically, if you're on island already and other people are pushing island, they're either going to be doing it
especially if you got the mythic flapjack.
And if you're on the house and somebody comes up a zipline as you're watching it and you have the flapjack rifle pre-aiming the zipline, there is not a thing they can do about it. You're going to fry them and they're out of the game. Also, if somebody rifts and kind of like plays mid-range with the rift, like they don't just dive right onto you, shooting them out of the sky with the flapjack rifle is really nice. The flapjack rifle is a very good weapon and it combos well with the drum shotgun. Another thing that's helpful about cars is that they can be used as mobile cover, which is essential this season. As I was talking about with the bunkers, there's not too many things you can do if you're in a bad situation, and that makes the game more passive than it would be before, because like the only way to not get bad timing ever is just to hide the entire time. That's what a lot of people do. But with bunkers, you can kind of equalize some of those situations, and also with the car you can kind of equalize some of those situations. You can use it as mobile cover, and this is something that's very popular in other battle royales like PUBG and Warzone, more traditional BRs. Having the cars to get around the map quickly and kind of limit the time you're exposed, and then also have it as a piece of mobile cover is very, very, very helpful. And you can also do drive-bys on the car. So if you're driving and you see somebody, you can seat swap and just start frying them with your red eye. And this is another thing that is very popular in battle royales like PUBG and Warzone, and it works great in Fortnite as well. It's very difficult for other players to deal with you when you're doing this to them. I think another huge tip for this season is that you need to be more mindful of the storm and rotate early if possible. So this is
true. I've had several occasions this season where I ran into storm and we've barely made it out alive.
It's important in game, but it comes into play at any point in the game, because I've seen a lot of players talk about dying to storm this season. It's not really a problem that I've had as much, but I know a lot of players have had this problem more so this season than any other season before, and a decent portion of that is the lack of mobility and the difference in how you play the game with mobility. With mobility, you could late rotate pretty often, and it was a pretty good play to do. I'll have a clip here in Mega City. So I'm on a rooftop, and this other player is on a rooftop too. We kind of have like equal positioning. Zone pulls off of Mega City onto like the dormant volcano, and I end up rotating early, whereas he waits until the last possible second to rotate. And the reason why you would typically want to wait until the last possible second to rotate is that you hold that position of advantage until it isn't in game anymore, essentially, and then you would just katana into zone or shockwave into zone or whatever mobility there was. You would go from your position of advantage using mobility to get into zone and not really sacrifice too much. But without any mobility in the game, late rotating in zero build is very problematic, and you need to be much more mindful of, you know, where zone is going, how you're going to get there, and getting there at an appropriate time. Another reason why late rotating was often good was like the person that got ahead first would often just kind of get dove on by everybody with mobility at times if you made yourself too much of a target. But that's not as much of a thing anymore. I think you need to be earlier rotating if possible. Every game is going to...
That dude cornered himself on the mountain and died to storm. That was hilarious.
There's times where you want to late rotate still. But I think that is one thing I've seen a mistake a lot of players making endgame when I've been playing myself, is just that they late rotate too frequently, and it gives them no time to get into zone, and it also gives them no time to really make any decisions about how they're getting into zone, because they just have to like run in as fast as possible before, because they're taking an absurd amount of damage. So carrying bunkers and rotating earlier, I think, is one of the biggest things when it comes to endgame. If you get into zone first,
I can get on board with that.
Bunker up and just hold the rest of the lobby. Typically, that's going to be an easy time for you to win the game. Once it gets to like those moving zones, that play is just like, that's how you win games now. You get ahead, you bunker, you hold the rest of the lobby, you do that zone to zone, and you will eventually win the game, I think. So the drum shotgun is also incredibly good. I'm not really sure which shotgun I prefer yet, like what my preferred loadout is, but I think for most people, you're going to want to use the drum shotgun. It's incredibly effective, and it's very, 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 very
Agreed.
easy to use, and that's the
especially
problem
the
a lot of players
mythic
have
from
with it,
loot.
is it's just like the easiest, most forgiving close range weapon that we've ever had in the game. So I would highly recommend using it, and I would highly recommend getting the mythic version. It's pretty busted. One weakness of the drum shotgun is going to be the range. Its range is not good, and that's going to get you in a lot of situations. Like if you're just using drum shotty and red eye, you might get in some situations where like someone's like 15 meters away, maybe like not quite drum shotty range, but also not quite red eye range. And that's another situation where the flapjack rifle just excels. It's great in that range. It fills the void perfectly. So running something like red eye, drum shotty, and flapjack rifle, I think can be very good because you kind of have like a weapon that's dominant in every range. At your like medium to long range fights, you have the red eye. Your extreme close range fights, you have the drum shotgun, and
in this case we don't have the red eye anymore, so I would say replace the red eye with the MK7 and then also carry a thermal just in case.
Your more like close to medium range fights, you have the flapjack rifle. I think you also need to be very cautious of how you navigate the map without any mobility. This kind of goes into what I was talking about before, where like just timing is everything. You could have a 1 out of 10 player get good timing on a 10 out of 10 player, and if that 10 out of 10 player is in a bad spot for whatever reason and doesn't have a car and doesn't have bunkers, the skill difference between the players doesn't matter anymore. There's just like not much you can do to reset a fight if someone gets bad timing on you. So be very cautious of how you navigate the map and like where your nearest piece of cover is. You always need to be mindful of where your nearest piece of cover is. Again, this is another thing that's very common in other BRs to be concerned about. And just keep that in mind. Another thing I think a lot of players struggle with, myself included, is that you need to be willing to let kills go. Without mobility, a lot of pressure doesn't mean anything. You could tag someone 120, but if you have to like push up a hill or in like one of those areas you want to avoid, like a wide open area, if you have to push through that to get to them, it's probably not worth going and pushing that kill. Whereas like before, you tag someone like a decent amount of damage, you could just full send on them with your mobility, and then you can translate that into a kill really easily.
And I've actually struggled with this as well because I like to go for the kills. So example, yesterday I was pushing a team up a hill and I kind of went by myself. I took out most of the team, but I ended up getting killed by a legendary drum shotgun, and that was kind of the issue there. I didn't have any mobility, and they kind of just had the upper hand advantage on me.
That isn't as much of a possibility anymore with the lack of mobility, so I feel like you need to just like be willing to let kills go. And a lot of the things I've kind of talked about in this video just comes down to like limiting fighting. Without mobility, you're not able to change the outcome of fights as much if it's a bad situation, and so the more fights you're forcing, the more likely it is you're going to lose one, and then there's not much of a chance. There's not like you're going to get into some fights where there's nothing you can do, and it really stinks. But that is just kind of the nature of the game with no mobility. You just need to play more cautious at all times, and that just leads to a lot of people not taking fights and the game being much slower overall. But that's going to be my advice for the season. I think some of the biggest things you can do is just carry bunkers, use cars more, and be willing to use them as mobile cover. And if you're able to rotate earlier than the rest of the players in the lobby, especially if you're watching this video as it just comes out, a lot of players aren't used to it yet, and so they're just constantly late rotating. But rotating early can just give you a huge advantage in the game right now. But that is it for today's video. If you enjoyed this, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like some more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Absolutely agree with what he was saying. Majority of that, again, the red eye has been replaced with the MK7, so loadout would go for me personally, and I think Jake would agree with me here. It would probably be MK7, mythic drum shotgun, the mythic pancake rifle, and then possibly a thermal. And then you got your shields, and then your possibly a bunker. I don't necessarily carry bunkers. I don't really take that kind of cover when I'm playing, because I'm a pretty aggressive player. However, I won't lie, they will come in handy. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and sub if you're new to the channel. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next one. Hey guys, if you like the video, make sure you head over to the page, hit that like button, scroll over, smash that subscribe, and hit that bell icon to get notified for future video drops, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.